Hey ladies, happy Friday. It's been a minute since I've been in here, so wanted to answer a question that came in last week, and I'm going to tag the person, and I'm going to say your name wrong. Waiti Sanai. I don't know how to say your name. I'm so sorry, but I will tag you in this post so that you can hear my response to your question. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jenny Glick. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sex therapist, but in this space, I'm a relationship mentor, and I'm here to answer your relationship questions. I work with some women in an 8-week program. You can see information about that floating around here. And especially during this time, I think it's really important to be very aware about how it is that you're showing up in your relationship with yourself and relationship with other people. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to get to a couple of questions that have come in to me via private messenger. So take a breath. The women who I mentor, we always start our trainings and teachings the same way, which is I invite them to take a breath, to arrive, to come into this moment, this space. We're often rushing around so quickly and so much that we don't make the time, create the time, enjoy the time to be in this present moment that we have. And so I invite you to be in this present moment that we have here, right in this moment. And what's it like for you to clear off whatever has been happening with you prior to this moment, whatever has happened this morning for you? So just notice how difficult it might be just to be here in this present moment, and it might be very easy for you. You might want me to hurry up, get to the thing you're going to talk about, and just notice that, right? Just paying attention to what comes up for you. So a few things we're going to discuss. Number one, you're really powerful. You're an incredibly powerful human being. And when you know the power that you have in your life, to create the relationships that you want to have, to create the living situation that you want to experience, then you will learn to be hopefully very discerning in how it is that you use your power. I think one of the reasons why we get into such a tug of war with our partners or with other people in our lives is that on one hand, especially for us strong, independent women, we're like, I'm powerful, which is true, you are. And with great power comes great responsibility. And so if you know I'm powerful, right, then really important to also be incredibly discerning, right? Incredibly discerning about how and what you are showing up in a space. This isn't about being perfect. It's about knowing your power. And when you know how powerful you are, you know that your words create your world. You know that what you say to your partner when you're angry and pissed off matters. It matters a lot. This morning I had a situation with my husband. We had a really great morning. We got up really early together and went for a walk. And it was one of those mornings where I was just full of love and appreciation and just like high feeling, right? You know that feeling where you're just like, whoa, on cloud 9. And I just felt amazing. And then we went and were paddleboarding, and he said, oh, by the way, and he shared something sort of situationally with me that had to do with attorneys and things and, complicated legal matters that have an impact on us, on our family. And my entire state went from whoa to right? It was this immediate and I could feel and notice, and I share this with you all because I know you all go through this too, all of the old stories. This is what I work with the women who I serve. This is the moment that we work with. That moment when all the narratives, oh my gosh, I need to do everything. How come I can't trust you to take care of anything? Whatever. All the stuff coming in my mind, right? And because I've been teaching this work for a very long time, and because I have insight, and because I know the moment it gets hard is the moment that we are being invited to strengthen the new practice, the new narrative. That's the moment. And so that moment came up. And in that moment, I described this the other day in something that I wrote in this space. In that moment, it can feel like wrestling a crocodile, right? It's like, okay, I'm not going to say all the things that I want to say, right, in that moment. And I want to describe a difference here, because it's not about shutting you off. It's not about taking your voice away, right? As women, we get to have our voice. We get to speak our truth. We also get to be incredibly discerning about our power and about how it is that we're using it, and about the collateral damage that it can cause when it's spewed out, because there's residual anger, disappointment, sadness, all of that. And all of that energy that comes up needs to be grounded out. You need to breathe through it. You need to have a physical practice to move through all of that so you can be responsible and accountable for what happens next. Because when we feel that trigger and we just go to, oh my gosh, I can't believe, and how come, and why didn't, and you should have, and this always happens, right? All of that, it doesn't serve anybody. And we're powerful, remember? We're powerful. And when we're powerful, we get to take great responsibility, great discernment with that power. And so I took care of myself I said to my husband, I need time by myself. So I paddled around for a while, and then I came back in, and then I did a physical practice and moved it through and grounded it and pivoted, shifted myself where I could be in a state of creativity, of compassion, of kindness, of collaboration, so that we could, as a team, be with the situation, right? And that 45 minutes, hour and a half, whatever it was, that's the moment that we're invited to show up. And it's why it is that I work with women over 8 weeks, because let me tell you, if you are in life and a relationship, you will be triggered over a 2-month time period. And when you get triggered, that's the time, right? That's the time to practice, because what will happen is, for most of us, we fall back into our most practiced pattern of throwing up our hands. Why is it always this way? How come you didn't? And at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all human. We forget things. We forget to make a mortgage payment. We forget to pay our kids' student, tuition. We forget to register the car, renew our driver's license, whatever. There are all kinds of things that get lost along the way, and we don't like it, and it's a pain in the butt, or whatever it is that you and your partner have going, right? That is what it's like to be in a relationship with another human. And if you want to change that dynamic, your invitation is to do it, not when it's easy, but when it is that you feel like, boom, you just want to go there. And having a practice, a map, a community, guidance, support, using your physical body, using your breath, because everything in you is going to demand that you go back, right? All those thoughts that come flying up into your head that are like, are you kidding me? Right? I know those thoughts. I am human too. I get it. I've been married 20 plus years, right? So I get all of that stuff that comes up. And as soon as you follow that old narrative, you're a goner. As soon as you follow it, you're like, boop, we call that your 1.0 self. And that's where you go. And so that's your moment of truth. And if and when you decide, I don't want to live in that 1.0, because what it is reactivity. And there's no creativity in reactivity. There's no connection in reactivity. And the irony of the whole thing in my situation was I went through this whole, hour plus long grounding myself, taking total responsibility for myself, pulling myself into a place where I could connect and be on the same team with my husband, because he felt terrible that, he didn't do something that was his job to do. And then he came into my office and was like, yeah, that thing, I was wrong. It's fine. So it's like, no big deal, right? But so it's so interesting, right? Because nothing like changed, just my idea of it changed. And then I'm like right back to where we were prior to when he told me he thought this thing didn't happen and we would have to deal with all this stuff with attorneys, whatever, and then actually not. And that I'm so grateful, as always, because when we go through those scenarios, when I do, as a mentor, as a teacher, as a guide, it helps keep me humble because I'm human and we're all going to get triggered, right? It's not about not getting triggered. It's about, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it when you pop? In the communities that I serve, the women learn different skills. We call it pivoting, when they pop, when they want to pop, right? And we find ways. We get more creative than that demanding voice that says, go back, go back. So I hope that that's helpful for you all. I like for you all to know in here, like, I'm human. You don't get to a place where magically it's all better. It gets a lot easier because you're more practiced at it. Because in that moment when you want to pop, right, when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're building strength. In that moment, it's like you're building musculature. And so I built musculature for the next time, because there will be a next time, because he's human and I'm human, and we're both going to let each other down in some way, shape, or form. That's just how it goes. So I had a question that came in that I wanted to address about how it is that when you're in relationship, how it is that you create safety to talk about your own foibles, the places in you that you're working on. Basically how it is that you set up vulnerability with each other so that both partners are willing to have insight and willing to discuss sort of more intimate, vulnerable aspects of yourself. And I think part of that is showing up with the other person, vulnerable, and with that being your practice from the beginning. Because at the end of the day, there are some people who are interested in having insight, which means looking at how it is that my thoughts, my feelings, my behaviors, my beliefs, my actions, how I take up space, how that impacts my partner or the world around me. Some people are interested in being aware of that, and some people aren't. And one is not better than the other. They're just two different ways to live. And so if you're someone who's interested in having insight about yourself, and if you're someone who tends to be growth-oriented, then it makes a lot of sense that you pair with someone who is growth-oriented as well. We don't always do that, especially if we get into a relationship when we're young and we're not really clear defined in our own identity yet. And so then that can be a struggle once we have children, if we choose to do that, or we get married, or have money entangled, that we realize that one person is more growth oriented than the other person, right? And so I think the one sort of piece of advice that I can give you is start from the beginning. There's one of the things that we know in the research on couples is that in the first 6 months to 12 months, you're establishing what I think of as your rules of engagement for your relationship. So that means you're establishing how it is that the two of you are going to be connecting with each other, how your system's going to go. The problem with that is that usually the first year that we're together, what happens is we are on our best behavior, and so we don't bring things up. I don't want to bring it up because I don't want him or her to get mad, or I don't want to seem needy, or I don't want to seem reactive, so I'm just not going to bring it up. And so then we don't bring it up for the first year, the second year, the third year, and then you bring it up year 4 and your partner's like, why didn't you say this from the beginning? This has been going on for a long time, right? And so it's important early on to know you're establishing your rules of engagement. It's important from early on for you to be who it is that you are, and for you to, I want to say ask for what you need, but it's not even exactly that, because it's not about need. It's fully embodying and being yourself, right? Allowing yourself to fully embody and be yourself in your relationship. So I hope that that's helpful. I had one more question that came in, and I'm just checking. If any of you who are watching this have additional questions or comments, please post them below. I'm happy to do any sort of follow-up. So if I explain something and you're not clear on it, then just ask and I can provide more clarity, which is fine. The other question that I had from someone was how it is to create more alignment in their life, in their relationship, because their life and their relationship feels off. And so how it is that they create alignment in themselves, which is a really big question. First, I would say go back and watch lots of the videos that I've done, because I talk about that a lot in lots of different ways. In order to create alignment with a different version of yourself, you have to get clear on what that version of yourself is. So if you tend to be more anxious, if you tend to be more depressed, if you feel like you're disconnected, right, that's what I would call in my world your 1.0 self. And so you have to get really clear on who your 2.0 version of you is. And if that person tends to be more, upbeat, more joyful, full of ease, lighthearted, those kinds of things. It sounds really silly and super simple, but it's about practicing being that. Again, the place where we get tripped up is that when we get uncomfortable, so when I wake up in the morning and I feel like meh about life, right? There's discomfort in the meh, and I want to feel joy and delight and happiness. And so I might try to get out of my meh, right? And do gratitude journals or do a workout class or do something to try to elevate me. And so I end up sort of walking, right, between this world, trying to get to that world. And when it gets hard, right, we've been talking about this, that discomfort, that's when you're building strength. It's why it is that it can be really valuable for some women to have a container, a program to help them, because when it gets hard is when you're going to want to go back to meh, because it's like, why bother trying to be happy? My partner's not being happy. The kids are annoyed. The world is falling apart. I'm just going to go back here, right? So if you want to create alignment here, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable and to keep going. You have to be willing to build the strength to get over here. You have to be more committed to the solution than to the problem. It requires so much commitment and love of yourself to live in this world. It is not Pollyanna. This is not like unicorns and puppy dogs, right? It is a resolute commitment to yourself to say, oh, I want to pop and be so pissed off at the world, at my partner, at my kid, at whatever. And let me tell you all the things that they did and how they shouldn't have done it. But I'm going to be responsible enough for my power to ground it out, to take care of myself until I can be on the team of my partner, on my family's team, on whomever the team is that I want to be on, rather than aligning myself with this old place of anger, contempt, because we know where that's going to take you, right? So if you're someone who recognizes that you have great power, also know that that does mean great responsibility for how it is that you're going to use that power. And the emotional frequency, we talk about that a lot with the women who I serve, that you're emanating totally impacts the people around you. That doesn't mean that you can't have your feelings. You totally get to have your feelings. You get to feel all your feelings, and you get to be responsible about how you express them, right? I can feel my feelings. I can process my feelings in a productive way without broadcasting all of my muck onto people around me, without spewing my reactivity on my partner. But that requires me to get uncomfortable. So I hope that this is helpful for you all. Thank you so much for being here. If you are watching this and you're in my Facebook group, then please feel free to invite any of your women friends who you feel like this information might serve. If you're on my YouTube, then you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do these about once a week. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. So send me a DM on Facebook. I'll list my that link here below on YouTube. And if you have any questions that I can answer during one of these lives, or if you're interested in working with me in my 8-week program, reach out to me and we can get some information, see if you're a fit. If you are, we can go from there. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye. Thanks so much for being here. Take good care.